What is good, everybody? Today we have Americans living abroad. The first time you realize America really messed you up. Let's check it out.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really...
So I've been living in New Zealand for the last 4 years, and at work there was an American flag, and I jokingly went and put my hand over my heart and said the Pledge of Allegiance, and everyone was kind of like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's a Pledge of Allegiance. So basically growing up every day at school at like 9 o'clock or whatever, we would all stand up and the whole class would recite the Pledge of Allegiance with our hands over our hearts to the American flag in the corner of the room. And my coworkers were like, what?
That's kind of culty in a way.
You know, when you say it out loud, it sounds a bit culty.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is
It
one
really
time
does.
that made you realize that America really...
So when I was in high school, I was a lifeguard, and during my lifeguard training, they taught us that before we even administer first aid or CPR, we had to ask for consent to avoid being sued. Now fast forward a couple of years, and I'm in London as a waitress, and my company sends me to go do CPR training. And while I'm there, they go over the same stuff that I learned in the States, but I notice that they're completely glossing over this one particular area. So I raise my hand and I ask, what are the laws here? Like, how do you avoid being sued if something goes wrong? To which every single person in the room starts laughing at me, says, oh, you're American, right? Yeah, no one here is going to sue you for trying to save their life.
That's just so crazy, though. I mean, I feel like if you're trying to save someone's life in that situation, then how can anybody be sued for that? Imagine saving someone's life just to get sued. Are you fucking serious? I just saved your life. You want to sue me? I could have let you die.
American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really met...
So in the U.S., I regularly get pneumonia. Sometimes I get like pneumonia and bronchitis, but pretty much all, you know,
That'll
like
take you out.
clockwork, I get it. I had just moved to Scotland for my master's, and I was coming down with a respiratory infection like I do every year. It was just the early onsets of pneumonia, but like normally I wait to the point of where I'm like literally unable to breathe before I go to the doctor because it's expensive in the U.S. Well, here I was like, you know what, I'm here. I paid for the NHS. Let me go get it. Saw a doctor, gave me a prescription. I went to the pharmacy to pick up my medication, something that I literally would not be able to afford with my minimum wage job and being a full-time student. They gave it to me for free because it was necessary, and I almost cried in the pharmacy. Like tears were welling in my eyes.
This one time
That's
that
so
made
amazing.
you realize that America really messed you up.
It might be a little bit controversial to say, but I really do feel like the healthcare system in America is really fucked up, and it's kind of a business, in my opinion. When you have people who really need medication and they're about to, you know, pretty much die, and they have to charge you this much money just to live, I always felt like people who go through these awful diseases and illnesses, and they have to have all these hospital visits, be on all this medication, and they're spending tons of money just to stay alive. At the very least, we can do a better job of trying to make these medications and these surgeries affordable. But, you know, so far we haven't done that, and people suffer all the time.
Okay, so I live in New York now, but I used to live in England, and one time I was out at this bar with my friends, and these two cops walked by. And one of my friends was like, oh, I wonder why there are cops out right now. And I looked at the cops and I got really confused. And I was like, those are cops? And my friends were like, yeah. And I was like, they don't have guns. And everyone was like, why would they have guns? They were like so aghast at that question. And I was realized in that moment that, and learned that guns, there are so few guns in the UK, and it's such not an issue that like the everyday cop does not carry a gun.
Wow.
There are houses in America that have seen more guns in them than a fresh vegetable. It blew my fucking mind. I think about it all the time. I hate guns so much.
Shit. I should have known this video was going to be controversial, but hey, whatever. Listen, I don't like guns either, but I think they're necessary for sure. Whenever I get a chance to own a gun, I will own a gun legally, of course. I'm not a gun fanatic. I don't think guns are amazing. I'm not someone who needs to buy all the fucking guns in the world and have an armory like Rambo, but I do think that defending yourself and having protection is very important, you know, especially in America. I do think that all these school shootings, all these mass shootings, it really is a huge problem. And it's getting so bad that we're getting desensitized to it. So I don't think anybody cares enough about it to really do much about it, you know? So it's a matter of just when. When are you going to be in a situation where a guy has a gun and he's just shooting around and you have to fucking run for your life? It just really makes you wonder, are we really doing enough to really get a good handle on this gun shit that's happening in America? But we're going to always get into arguments. More people are going to die. More children and kids are going to die. And it feels awful, man. And nothing's going to ever really get settled.
Time that made you realize that America really...
In the US, I could not let my 11-year-old son go outside and play by himself.
Oh, hell no.
Someone would call the cops or something would legitimately happen to him, and so there was no way. And when I moved to Germany, my husband, who's a German national, suggested that he go outside and play by himself because we would not have to worry.
What?
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one
I
time
still
that
would
made
let
you
my
realize
child play
that
by
America
himself.
really...
So I didn't realize this until I moved abroad, but Americans have a very strange concept of freedom. Like, when you're growing up, you're always told that America is such an amazing place and, you know, it's the land of the free, home of the brave, but,
Right.
like, I keep hearing these criticisms from people like, oh yeah, but America has the most freedom. Wow, yeah, freedom. I mean, there may be a few exceptions or nuances, but in the UK, you're still free. Like, that is the biggest lie that Americans are ever told, that there aren't other free places. Like, I don't understand. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like the concept is kind of destroying American democracy. How ironic. Like, they need to kind of understand that they need to work on things to make themselves better and more free for their citizens.
American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
Okay, so I'm not currently living abroad, but I did live in Australia for a few months. And one night while I was there, I got a little bit too crazy and I ended up on public transportation without a phone. And I had to find my way back to my apartment and I got lost. And while I got off the tram to get onto a different tram to take me home, a middle-aged gentleman came up to me and I immediately went into attack mode and I was like going to kill him. And he was like, no, I was just going to tell you which tram to take to get back to Preston. And that was when I realized that in Australia, I didn't need to be afraid. Like, granted, take precautions, but I didn't need to be afraid of every man. But in America, I still am.
If you're an American...
Okay, be afraid of every man. Okay, that's a bit of a generalization, but I think that some people would actually help you in America. Now, I get that America is far different than Australia. I get that. And you probably have more people who are more inclined to be friendly to you, especially if you're a foreigner. I get that. But it kind of gave me some feminist vibes when she was talking. I don't have to be scared of a man in America. Like, Jesus Christ. Not every man's gonna hurt you. Stop generalizing all guys, man. I can't stand that.
American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America...
So I don't live abroad anymore, but for half of 2018, I lived in Germany and I have so many stories. The town that I lived in had like a main plaza area and there was a cafe in that plaza. So a couple of my other American friends and I decided to try it out one day and there was a construction site nearby. We heard a really loud bang and, you know, we kind of assumed that someone had fired a gun. And so we like ducked for cover and then we were looking around frantically trying to find like a place that we could run to or hide to get out of the situation. And then we realized that no one had shot a gun. No, it was a loud bang from the construction site. That's it. That's all it was. We'd been speaking in English, and we all have really obvious American accents, so all the Germans around us gave us these really sad looks, like, oh, these poor, poor Americans.
It's like every day,
currently
B.
living abroad, what is one
Gunshots.
time that made you realize that America
It's
really
hard out
messed
here,
you
man.
Okay, so I moved to Sweden. And when I got here, I wasn't feeling too well, so I went to the doctor, and the doctor recommended that I get an EKG, an electrocardiogram. Now, instead of worrying about my health, my first reaction was, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can get one of those, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford it. And
it was free.
Sweet little man, this sweet, amazing doctor goes, did you not pay the, like, $20 when you got here? I ended up getting a regular EKG, a 24-hour-long EKG, a blood test, and a freaking checkup for $20.
Damn.
What this entire situation is that I am getting better, and I am getting the medical attention I need without going broke.
I fucked up my shoulder like 2 years ago, and the doctor I went to said I probably need an MRI and I would maybe need surgery. And I just asked him, how much would all that be, by the way, doc? Once he told me the price, I was like, would you look at that? My shoulder feels fine.
One time that made you realize that America really messed you up.
I pride myself on being an American. I didn't make it out before COVID, but I went to Norway, and I fell in love with Norway. I read about it, researched it, and I was like, I've got to visit first. And I only went for a week, and it was for the Inferno Metal Festival. And for the first time in my life, I was actually called an American. They didn't assume where I was from. And there was this beautiful Norwegian elder, and she says, "God påske." And I said, "Beklager, jeg snakker litt norsk." And I said, basically, she said, "Happy Easter." And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't speak a lot of Norwegian." And she goes, "Oh, you're an American." And she didn't worry about her purse. She didn't look at me sideways. And I cried. I cried when I left, because for the first time, I was able to be just an American. I didn't even hardly drink, didn't do anything crazy.
If you're an American...
That must feel pretty good. I mean, the only time I ever feel like I'm an American is when we're about to potentially go to war. Even though we're all Americans, we don't treat each other like that. So it's always been that way.
One time that made you realize that America really...
So during the first lockdown, we have an elderly neighbor, and we would go and check in on her every once in a while and, like, get her groceries if she needed. And progressively, she started to not be able to breathe very well. And we knew it wasn't COVID because she had it before. But, like, at one point, it was like she couldn't even get to the door without, like, literally not being able to breathe and having to sit down. So my partner decided that we needed to call an ambulance for her and get her to the hospital pronto. And when he told me that he was going to call an ambulance, the first thing that I said was, "Are you sure?
It's expensive.
Can she afford an ambulance? Like, we could just drive her." And it wasn't until my partner looked at me like, and then it clicked that, oh, that's not a worry here. And then I went upstairs and cried, because it really smacked me in the face that as Americans, we are conditioned to not worry about someone's health first, but to worry about whether or not they can financially afford to see a doctor and get help.
An American currently living abroad, what is
It
one
is
time
hella
that
expensive,
made you realize
though.
that America really messed you up?
So I moved to Germany in 2018 as a study abroad student, and I had a nice apartment that was on the ground floor with a nice patio, a big door that opened that led to the patio. And I was minding my own business in bed one day. The door was wide open. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, and I heard these really loud banging noises coming from outside that weren't very far. And I'm like, that's not a firework or a firecracker. It can't be. I freak out because as an American, I'm like, I'm about to get shot. Somebody is shooting up all of the student apartments right now. So I call all of my friends and I'm like, did you hear that? Am I crazy? Do we need to call the police and whatever? And they're like, I don't know, but yeah, maybe call your boyfriend who's German and like ask him. So I call my boyfriend and I'm like, watching, we just heard this stuff, like what's going on? And he's like, not to worry. Here in Germany, we don't have shooters. Those are probably just firecrackers. And I'm just like, I'm damaged. Like, we are all damaged and freaking out about freaking firecrackers. We think we're going to get shot up.
When you have as many mass shootings as we do in America, that kind of makes you a little bit paranoid. Just a little bit. A little bit.
That America really messed you up.
Hey, I live in Ireland and I've lived most of my adult life here. I moved to Ireland in 1995. My teenage daughter was born here many years ago, and when she was born, I spent 2 nights in hospital. Before she was born, I had an emergency cesarean section, and then I spent a further 6 nights afterwards. The total cost to me was 0.
Wow.
I kept asking them, like, are you sure no one wants my credit card? Like, do you want my details so you can send me the bill? And they would just like laugh, like, oh, you're American. There's no bill. So 8 nights in hospital, emergency procedure, 0 bill.
8 nights in the
American
hospital,
currently living abroad,
you
what is
know
one
that's
time that made
expensive
you
as
realize
fuck
that
over
America
here.
really messed you up?
Okay, I have another one. When I was studying in Spain, we had our orientation the first week of classes, and our program director sat us all down and had to explain our health insurance to us and how it worked. And basically, it worked that you paid like €1,000 for the semester, and you got health insurance, like free health insurance for everything, covered everything. And she had to sit us down, and she had this big group of Americans in a room, and she was like, "Listen, if you are sick, go to the doctor." And we were all like, yes. And she was like, no, like, Americans don't go to the doctor. You won't go to the doctor when you're sick. So I have to tell you every year to do this, and still kids will just put off going to the doctor because you're used to just like pushing through illness. No matter what it is, I don't care if it's a cold, go to the doctor. And she had to actually like spell that out for us.
Okay, I think that's the end of the video, guys. But yeah, a lot of good points made here. But the last girl that was actually telling her story, I think that a lot of Americans don't really go to the doctor when they need to go because of just how expensive the medical bill will be. I truly feel like it should be free, in my opinion. Maybe not everybody agrees with that, but I do think that people shouldn't have to worry about the expenses and the costs of trying to stay healthy, especially when you need this medication, you need surgeries that's gonna keep you alive. You just see all of these other countries that don't have to worry about what we have to worry about in America, and they're doing just fine. But let me know what you guys think, and please, for the love of God, keep it civil. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next reaction video. Peace!